Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Conversations. I have with me a very special guest today, post UK elections, and she is one of the best persons who can speak about it. My ex colleague and now settled in the UK, a member of the Conservative Party, Nandini Singh. She actively campaigned for the Conservative. She has contested some local elections also there before. So, no better person than Nandini to tell us and analyze what went right and what went wrong today's election. Nandini, welcome to Conversations.
Hi, Suresh. Thank you so much. And really love being here and talking to you on a very important election that we've just had. And we've had a crushing defeat, no doubts. And we'll congratulate the Labour Party on their win. But a couple of things that really we need to talk about is that the Conservatives have been there for almost 14 years. So that was a factor which played up. Then you had the COVID crisis, then you had the Ukraine issues, and you also are seeing what is happening in Gaza. So a lot of these factors have had an impact on the UK elections. We were seeing the way the polls were predicting that things were not looking great. So there's no denying or disputing that. Yes, we knew we would be not doing well. But what came as a surprise to a lot of people like me, and I'm sure a lot of the MPs contesting, was the need to call for a snap election by Rishi Sunak. It was his decision and his decision alone. The couple of other factors as well, I think you know the issues basically that a lot of people were upset about was the migration issue. Now that is something that has been, a big issue which has been discussed with the plans to deport to Rwanda. Now, we could have had this election later. That is what we were all foreseeing because the net migration levels were coming down. The other big thing was the strikes that were happening, especially with regard to the NHS. We knew by the end of the year that figures would also be looking slightly better. So, and I think the other issues that obviously, Rishi Sunak also mentioned about the national service, which was really, really a big welcome one. But then his early return from the D-Day event actually was something that a lot of people were angry about. That how did he, as a prime minister, not attend the whole ceremony, which had a big impact. There were a lot of factors. I think we can just go on and on. Prior to him, you had Liz Truss, who obviously was a factor, and you cannot put the whole blame on Rishi Sunak, but Rishi Sunak has to take the onus and take the ownership for him, because to call these elections at such a short notice, it was because we had just come out of the May Council elections. It had just got over, and now we got straight into the general elections. Uh, Labour has run a very different campaign compared to the way we ran it, and we were assuming it would be just Labour on the left side of it and Lib Dem on the center side of it. As Nigel Farage, who is a brilliant leader, speaks so well, he has confirmed that he would be going to the US to help Donald Trump. Now, that was not something that we saw coming when he said he will be actually contesting. And the leader that he is of the Reform Party, he connected a lot with the masses. I think they've just got, I think we've just had the results at the fifth seat. They have just won by around 100 votes, too close to call. But yes, Reform has made inroads. There have been issues there as well. I think they have not had the time because the elections were called so soon, and they decided to get into it as well with regard to the vetting of the candidates. So a lot of the Reform candidates obviously were questioned for the kind of comments they made and the kind of things they said. Uh, what will be interesting to see is now how the Conservatives, we have had a setback and a huge setback, but the comeback needs to be really, is going to be challenging. And if we have leaders, but who will be the new leader of the Conservative Party? We will need to, and with the issues like Brexit, we have upset people who wanted the Brexit, and we also upset the Remainers. So we will have to work on getting both of the people together now and reaching out to them and working with the opposition that we have, where even the foreign, in things like that, what I said with the Ukraine crisis, the economy, there's so many issues. So Labour have come in power. They will have a lot of challenges because migration will be a big issue that will be coming up going forward. Uh, there is a huge debt crisis that UK faces. How will the investment happen? How will the growth happen? Where will the economy go? And we also have issues with the migrant crisis, as I'm saying again and again. Where do we place them? How will the scheme work if we are not going to deport them to Rwanda? What exactly is the plan? So Labour has been canvassing and campaigning completely on saying we are screaming for change, we are shouting for change. What is the change? We don't know. And how will this change come about? We don't know. So there is a lack of clarity, which we really want to see in the next, when they have these plans going forward as to what they have plans for and how they are going to fix it. But within the Conservative Party, I hope we regroup, we come together again, and we have leaders like Kemi Badenoch, Preeti Patel, a lot of good leaders who have won the election, and we've crossed the 100 mark. So it's a lot of polls predicted between 60 to 70. At least they were close, but we have crossed the
I
100
thought the
mark.
I
But
thought
we
the
have
exit polls predicted 130 for
different exit polls
conservative.
predicted different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In fact,
BBC had a
when we talk of pushback, I think you need to push yourself a bit back actually because yeah, now we got it right. Yes, Nandini, one of the things that you're a parish councillor there in UK. You can come to your left actually. That is the ideal situation. Yes. But you're a parish councillor. You have campaigned extensively for the Conservative Party. You have contested the local elections there. Where see 14 years anti-incumbency, the language we call in India. I'm sure uh, you can't blame Rishi Sunak because he's been there for what now 2.5 years or 3 years
yeah,
at,
yeah.
in the helm, and I don't think he had much of time to kind of set UK right post COVID, especially. But when you look at the British system itself, you talked about immigration, and I was reading about a lot of seats which changed hands due to the huge Muslim population there. Can you take us through what happened in those seats and what is the threat going forward?
I'm so glad that you picked up that question because if you note
I,
in
I,
20
I, I will ask you that question again, Nandini, one more time because uh, kind of get it into this. Nandini, a question that I wanted to ask you is in terms of when you're talking of campaigns and when you are a parish councillor, you were there, you campaign hard for the British Parliament, your local MP, the area where you live and all that. But the question is across the country, there have been many seats where there was a problem, especially the Muslim population. And we saw a number of seats change hand, number of people losing because a lot of independent Muslim candidates jumped in and they took away some votes. So, can you let us know, I mean, for a normal citizen sitting in a country like India, as to how does this all work in the UK?
That's a very good question, and I don't think there are any straight answers to this because the person who led the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, in 2019 in the elections, actually won from Islington, and he contested against a Labour candidate. So the party he once led is the party he is fighting against, and he's won as an independent. And you have a lot of independent candidates who have actually made it to the British Parliament and who have a pro Gaza view definitely on that. What is interesting and what is going to be challenging is also that we need to understand that Labour Party has won, but if you remove London from that dynamics, their vote share has not really improved much.
Sure.
So there is a landslide when yes, they have won 400 plus seats. Congratulations, well done to them. They have been talking a lot about, pointing out the factors that, oh, we couldn't control this, we couldn't control that. But net migration was going down. So the numbers were looking to fall down. And that is why I think the question is there again that why did Rishi Sunak not hold on for the elections happening later this year when the figures would have looked better with the NHS and with the migration and other issues as well. So, and I obviously, with the kind of majority that Labour Party has, the expectations will be huge and the challenges are immense. They don't have they don't have they're not in a financially very suitable position right now. So are they going to improve the taxes of the people who are working so hard? How is that going to play out? They have been talking about the non-dom status. Yes, So what is the incentive for people to work hard, to aspire to have businesses, if that is all going to, if that's not the incentive they're going to give, if they're going to taxes more, taxes more, taxes more. A lot of people have done that. Then they have the private schools, which have been the, the taxes on that as well. A lot of private schools, kids will be readjusted. How will they be readjusted to the state schools? We have a shortage there as well of how will all that be worked out? It is easier said that, we will be bringing the change. This is the change. And we have international factors. Obviously, the Gaza, Israel, we've seen the streets of London, protests after protests, which has been there. Anti-Semitism was a big issue, is still a big issue. How will that be addressed going forward? There's so many things that, Labour Party will have to work upon. And there are a lot of people who left the Labour Party and contested as independents and have come back to win their seats. So these are very challenging times, Suresh. And I can only hope and pray that, they're celebrating that, Rachel Reeves, who has become the chancellor, comes from a good financial background, has in-depth knowledge, and I hope she is the right person who knows exactly how to do it. Because you have the NHS junior doctors are on strike. They're asking for a 35. But the other worrying bit is you have Angela Rayner as the deputy prime minister, and the unionists whom she is very close to. So will this be a situation like where the strikes will be more happening more going forward? If that is the case, then that is going to be so much more difficult. And you know how the left socialist thing will be, and or will they be approaching a more central approach where they are saying that it is more about the country, more about the people, more about, the investment and the growth. We will be having a, wait and watch. But whatever Labour Party does, they do it. But I think within the Conservative Party, we have had to some serious introspection and serious discussions. And I'm sure you will, in the next few days, know who will be the person leading the Conservative Party in Westminster.
Actually, the interesting points, Nandini. The main point which you brought out in terms of the immigration, the taxation that Britain is undergoing right now in terms of threatening to take away. You had a previous prime minister who was there for a very short while.
Liz Truss.
Yes, and what did she propose? She proposed a tax without any basis at all, and there's no revenue in the market there and no revenue with the government. Now, the most interesting point out there also is in terms of who the Labour Party was looking up to as a mentor. I think they must be missing Margaret Thatcher, because she was one lady who kind of literally, I mean, not many people are like her, but she broke the back of the unions, and we all know that. Britain was destined to doom, almost like a communist country. But more importantly, the previous Labour leadership, coming to India's perspective, was kind of anti-India, especially in the Kashmir issue. There was a lot of talks of that time, the Labour leadership saying that India and Pakistan should talk, there should be a plebiscite. They asked even the British High Commissioner to go to both the POK and Jammu Kashmir and, talk to the leaders there and everything. But post the present leadership of Labour, not just the senior leadership, even the middle level leadership, feel that the Indian community in UK plays an important role, and you're one of them, but on the other side of the fence. But do you think this change of attitude, especially when it came to the part of Jammu and Kashmir, is a change of heart because they realize that India can no longer be pushed around. Even US cannot push India. So is that thought process coming in that you had a visit to the Swaminarayan temple by the Labour leadership and all that, Samar and all? So, but do you think there really is a push towards what India wants itself to do?
The two things, I think British Indians contribute nearly 6.5% towards the GDP. And, they're working hard, contributing towards the taxes, contributing towards the growth. You have people, a lot of Indian investment happening here from the IT segment to the, to the other sectors as well. The India then and the India now has changed immensely. And they better wake up to that. There are issues, that obviously Labour Party have had when Corbyn was the leader, on what their stand was. I don't know how Labour Party is going to approach it, but I do know that they desperately will be going and reaching out to India for a trade deal. And I think it should be done on India's terms and conditions. And Labour Party, how they will negotiate, what they will negotiate is something that I think they will have to work out. But it is something that they will have to look at to get some sort of agreement, so that they have something coming back to the UK. Otherwise, India has a lot of options. India can go anywhere in the Western world, for these trade partnership. It doesn't need to come to the UK. So the UK is more desperate to go to India. It's not the other way around. And UK will have to, call their shots very wisely. Like you have people like David Lammy, who have been on the other side of the fence earlier, when I remember, and now they're remembering their great grandmother and the grandmother who had some touch with India. So I am not sure which way to call this, but I'm sure the Indian government will see it all through. And if it works in the interest of the British people and the Indian people, yes, we should go forward with that.
Yeah, Nandini, I think that is a fair point in terms of understanding where British leadership decides to take on India, especially the trade deal, which has been in the back burner for quite some time now. The Indian government actually is not interested till a few issues are settled, like the fugitives hiding in London because they get the protection of the British judiciary and they don't come back. People like Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, and others. So, but let us go beyond. We are now speaking about something different. Here we are in terms of the entire European Union itself. Look at Germany, look at France, look at UK. All of them are in the literally in the sick bed post COVID. Economy is not doing great. Inflation is still out there. GDP growth is not much. But when you look at India, on the other hand, here we are talking of GDP at 7 to 8%. So the
Yeah.
question is, how will Britain raise more revenues? Where will that come from? Because basically, in you, as I talk of in economics, when they say when the plumber costs more than the tap that is come to fix, there is a problem. So how do you think Britain can care? Because you can't reduce wages because they're set to a certain lifestyle. You can't reduce, you can't make cars cheaper in Britain because the Chinese make it even cheaper. So how do you handle this crisis? Where, I mean, what kind of magic is Labour going to come up with?
I think Labour Party will have to work out the magic themselves. There is no magic wand. But if they are serious about it, they will need to really get to the grassroots. And because there is a lot of this thing within the farming industry as well. And then they have talked about the NHS. If they do decide to privatize it, then how will that impact the healthcare? There are issues, and where will the money come from? Who is going to be taxed more? Where will the sudden cash influx come from? It's so difficult, and it's going to be very, very challenging. There are no doubts there.
But coming to question about Europe itself, because
Huh.
Brexit was a big issue. Uh,
Yeah.
was getting out of EU was a mistake or was a good move in hindsight? But more importantly, as a welfare state, as a country which provides a lot of social security net, rightly or wrong, with a high level of taxation, do you think the British are in for more taxation? Because the more issues, where do you raise the money from? You can't, I mean, they don't make it on the trees. It doesn't grow on the trees anymore. And you need to get the money from somewhere. You tax beyond a
Precisely.
point, and then, you will run into a same problem where the rich get taxed and get taxed and they get taxed. And finally, they flee the country.
I think this is precisely, see, when we won the elections, on Brexit, the architect of it was people like Nigel Farage, who, helped us with this. And now we failed there. We miserably failed there. We failed absolutely there. And then again, you have issues with the demographics and the numbers that are coming in as well. So how do you make sure that everybody gets employed when there is nothing really happening in terms of that? How is the economy going to get back to, a growth where the people's morale is low? There is a crisis, Suresh. There is no doubt there is a big crisis. And how and what steps, because you have the unions there, and you have the people who are working hard, who are going to be very upset if their taxes are going to go up. I still remember in 23, Keir Starmer came here and he said he will be freezing council taxes. Nothing of that has happened. But obviously, they said that it was only if they would have come, if they would have been in power. Don't no nothing. They are not going to do that. They're not going to do that. As a matter of fact, there are no clear answers, and that is why a lot of us, when we were going out, we were saying, do you know what the change is? Because it's easy to say that, we need change. Yes, we 14 years, yes, there were issues within the Conservative Party. We have to go back on the drawing board and work out what to do and how to do it. But we cannot just buy into it that a change is always positive. I hope it is positive for UK and for the nationals and for the residents here, but we don't have the clarity. Until we have the clarity, we don't have the answers as to how the money and from where the money is going to come.
Nandini, I know it's getting late in the evening in London, but my question, most obvious question as I come to close the conversation in a few minutes, would be the healthcare.
Yes.
Because that is one big issue in this election too. You're already talking of the junior doctors being on strike. In India, we crib about our healthcare, especially the primary healthcare and the government health. But in UK, you have the NHS, which is
Yes.
entirely funded by the government and, of course, the taxpayers' money. But many people have told me, including once I'd spoken to the CEO of NHS himself about a decade ago, and he told me then that the system is going to collapse very soon. And I think his words were very prophetic. Uh, how will UK get out of the mess in the healthcare sector? Because in India, you can get a blood test done just by giving a phone call. The person comes to your house and picks. You can get a dental check appointment within 6 hours or maybe even 4 hours. Sometimes you can even walk in. You can get an MRI done just like that, walk into the hospital and get it. But when it comes to UK, is the system so bad that NHS needs to have a serious introspection?
I I can only say one thing. We had a few issues because a lot of good doctors and nurses who had come from the European Union and were working in the UK went back. And the numbers have increased. The population has increased immensely in a lot of these smaller cities and places where you had just one hospital or maybe a small setup there. So how do you cope? Because the numbers have gone up, the doctors are not there, and the pay structure needs to be really looked at, because compared to what a junior doctor gets in the NHS versus what a banker gets in the private sector, there is a huge disparity. So you cannot expect them to be working that way at that wage unless they get a better pay structure. But where does the money come from? Again, the question is, and it's a huge setup. It's not a small private hospital here or there. It's a lot bigger setup, and it will be nobody has really done anything much about actually tackling this issue. But this is a very big issue, and this is not going to go away soon. Will they have been saying, oh, we will be privatizing? They have been questioning the conservatives. But which way will the labor go? Will they do something like what they did with the bupa earlier, so many years back, and getting into some sort of an agreement with the private healthcare? Yes, I don't know how that will work, but I don't see a way out coming out of this soon. Yes, I think what will happen is they will blame the previous administration. They will blame the conservatives for the next, for anything and everything going forward. But for how long will the British people accept it? Because they have asked for the change, and if they damn well don't deliver for this change, another 5 years, they will be out.
So you will be there pushing them to do it. I know you were supporting Sir Robert Buckland in South Swindon, and you also had met Priti Patel, Backman, Tom Turngaard, Kemi Badenoch, pardon me for the spellings, and of course David Cameron. Uh, I know elections in UK are not like elections in India, where it's a lot more noisy, drama, dust, a lot more stuff. It's very interesting, very colorful. But we were also told that the turnout, just like the Indian election, this time was low because people said anyway Labour is going to win. So why do we need to go out and vote, especially the Labour voters? Did the low turnout? And the second question to that would be, if you had added the votes of the Reform Party and the Conservatives, would the Conservatives have done better than what they have done, or maybe even have won the election?
I don't think it was really that bad. What has also had an impact was that, yes, a good conservative voters have voted reform, but reform has only got 5 seats. They were predicted to get a lot more. They were predicted to get around 13 to 14 seats. They've only got 5 seats. And the fifth seat they got was only by around 100 votes. So but we've had a good sizable number of conservatives who stayed at home. And that is what has hurt us a lot. So we've had people who supported the conservatives who have, in good numbers, not come out to vote. And we know that. And I think that's a fact that we will have to accept. And going forward, we will have to make sure that those conservative voters who did not come out to vote this time have our support back and will be voting for us
Yeah, I
next
agree
time.
with you, Nandini, on the point that the number of seats won by the Reform Party were less, but in terms of the vote percentage, they had a better vote percentage also than the number of seats they had won. Do you think if you add up the conservative vote percentage, I know the final numbers are not in yet, but if you add that and the Reform Party, do you think there was a split in the Conservative Party votes were taken away by the Reform Party? Is
They
there a
have
thought process?
taken, in my view, they have taken up some part of it, but I think it's being over exaggerated and I would not read too much into it. I think conservatives have to now, reach out to the right and to the center and stay focused and find a leader who actually speaks with conviction and actually gets the things going. And we have a strong leader who questions Labour parties on their misdoings.
Yeah, that brings me to the point as we speak in Indian elections. What next? I know we had a char so par here, but there Labour did the char so par
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Britain. But the question would be, Rishi Sunak had clearly indicated in the press conference outside 10 Downing Street that he would wait for his successor to be picked up, be selected, elected, or whichever way it is, before he hands over the baton. Do you think there would be enough leaders in the Conservative Party who, at this moment, will stick their neck out and take the risk of running for the next few years without being in the government?
Of course, without a doubt. Yes.
Who
There
would
are
that
quite a
be?
few. That will be the one to watch, but I know that we have people like Kemi Badenoch, we have Preeti Patel, we have Tom Duggan. There are a good few who will be there. And we will, obviously there will be some discussions happening in the next few days to come on who will be the next one. But we have good leaders still there and who will lead us through. And I'm sure we will come out, with this. The other interesting thing I wanted to point out is that a lot of Indian students who's come to do their masters here, if you're working here on a work permit, believe it or not, can vote in the general elections in the UK.
Wow, that's something the students there should understand
So
the
yes.
add-ons that come in with that.
Yes, so if you are a British national, you cannot. This is basically with the Commonwealth countries. Yes, so if you are an Indian student doing your masters here, or if you're working on a work permit, you still have paper ballots being used in the UK with a pencil. With a pencil, you put a cross across the name you want to vote for, and you put it in the ballot, and then they're all counted out at the sorting station, and then you have the results. And now
I
Swindon
think
was one of the
this
top five.
I think just like the UPI system of payment, digital payments in India, the humongous amount of 95 crore voters who vote
Yes,
in India, and the results coming out in a few hours
yes.
after the machines are opened. I think there's a
Look
long
at
way
the
to go.
difference.
Yes,
Look
Anthony.
at the difference. Yes, and it's just one of those things which makes you think, do we really need to do this? And then you have postal votes which go out a few, days before the elections. And then I can also have a proxy voting for me within my family. So if I am traveling, I can give it to my son who is above that age to vote, or I can give it to my daughter, I can give it to my husband. So you can do proxy voting, you can do postal voting. And as a country as a nation, somebody from the Commonwealth, they can vote. Students studying here from the Commonwealth, they can vote post, obviously doing their masters and stuff like that.
I think there's a
But
lot.
yes, yes, this is interesting. Yeah,
There
interesting
is
for
a lot
people to
that
know
we
in
can
India.
learn from the UK in terms of those kind of things, as much as UK can learn from that. Coming to the last question, of course, I would be asking what happened in Scotland.
Scotland will be an interesting one. I think we knew from Nicola Sturgeon's and things like that had happened, and then Hamza Yusuf, obviously with that hate crime thing that he was going on about, and obviously anti-incumbency, I think would be a factor there as well. But Scotland has never had conservatives. It's never been conservatives, and they've always played up the independence of Scotland as a big one. It's been, I think, for the last so many years that I've lived in the UK, I have heard it so many times. And that is a discussion that possibly we can have sometime else, but some other time. But definitely, Scotland, we knew would be going away from the Scottish National Party, and Labour have done there. But it will be interesting to see what they do, because Scotland again has major problems there as well with regard to other. It's something that they will have to really work hard on. Economy is one thing, migration is the second thing, and the healthcare. These are the three factors UK will have to seriously work on, because they are, because obviously we can say that, oh, look at the US elections, that's even worse. But the British elections need to be, we've suffered a crushing defeat. There is no denying that. But we know we have strong leaders in the party who will regroup the party, get us back together, and we will be on war footing again, I'm
I
sure.
think the way I think it's going about, Nandini, is that your leaders will be questioning Labour in every point now, especially the top 3 points which you mentioned. And I'm sure in the months to come, surely there'll be a lot more. And when you are in India next, I think which you're there next, this month or the next month, uh, we would like to gladly invite you to a discussion and where we will speak more about the British election, because there'll be more clarity by then. But it's wonderful speaking to you, sitting all the way there in Swindon and me here in Hyderabad. Nandini, thanks a lot for speaking to us. And I'm sure that uh, you can sleep well today night, because I know you've been up and awake all day yesterday. So,
It's not
uh,
just me, it's been the whole team, I think. And I,
yeah,
with
yeah.
due
So
respect,
there are
I
disappointments.
really, really love it was such a good team effort. And Sir Robert Buckland he's been an absolute pleasure to be a part of his team and be part of the campaign team.
Great work.
We will bounce back and we will come back, no doubts on that. And there is a clarity, or there is chaos going forward. Wait for the next one to come up. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Nandini.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a
Namaste.
lot. Namaste.
Namaste.
And thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you. Pleasure. Always a
Jai
pleasure.
Hind.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.